In the first talk on the fossil record, we basically found that the fossil record doesn't support the idea that life has gradually evolved and that species and organisms have gradually become more complicated and more complex as time progresses. If it was true, we'd see simple fossils turning into more complex fossils. But that's not what the fossil record shows. Second major part of evolution is the change or evolution from one species into a completely different species. Does a fossil record support that? That's what we're going to have a look at in this talk. We've seen so far that the fossil record doesn't support the gradual evolution from simple organisms into complex organisms. But what about the evolution of one species into a different species? These are sometimes called transitional forms, and Darwin suggested that there should be plenty of these and we should find them in the fossil record. They're sometimes called missing links. Why are they called missing links? Because they're a link from one species to another species, and they're missing because he hadn't found any of them yet. Now then, there are a few textbook examples which are held up as proof, absolute proof, that one species changed into another species, and they're sometimes described as icons of evolution. And I'm going to have a quick look at some of those. And I looked at the literature and it said that actually there's lots and lots of transitional forms now, but that's not true. Actually what we have is lots of fossils of the same type. And I'm going to look at three of them. These are the three standard or classic examples of transitional forms. Are they supported by the fossil record? When we look at these examples of missing links or icons of evolution, we find the story is very different to that painted in the literature or in the media. So there's one there called Archaeopteryx, and that's meant to be a missing link or a link between dinosaurs and birds. But I'm not an expert on that, but there's a man who is, Alan Fiducia. He's probably the world-renowned expert on the evolution of birds. He's not a Christian, but he said the Archaeopteryx is not a missing link. It's not a transitional form. Actually what it is, it's just a fossil of a bird. And one other point is that the Archaeopteryx fossils are actually younger than the birds which are supposed to have come from them. Well, that's the wrong way around. So that's not very convincing. Tiktaalik down the bottom, again, there's a big debate. How did creatures get from the water onto land? Well, that's meant to be evidence of what's called a tetrapod. But there's a quote from nature, and the quote from nature says, well, actually, what it is, it's just one species. It isn't a transitional form. Again, Nature is not a Christian magazine, it's a scientific magazine, and it says that is not a missing link. The last one, the most excitement is caused when scientists, paleontologists think they've got a missing link between apes and humans. And there was one, I'm not going to try and pronounce it, you can see the name there, but it's given the name Lucy, which is a bit easier to pronounce. Several fossils of Lucy have been found in Ethiopia, and again, when you look at the evidence, it is very clear that these fossils are not somewhere in between apes and humans, they're actually just human fossils. And originally they thought that Lucy walked in a stooped manner with her hands very close to the ground, a little bit like an ape or a monkey, but actually they found newer fossils, and they found that the feet of these fossils show that Lucy walked in an upright manner. In other words, it was a human fossil. These are standard textbook examples. None of them, when you look at them carefully, none of them are convincing that they are a link between one species and another species. So once again, the fossil record does not support evolution. The conclusion for this second part, the fact that we don't have any evidence to link different species together in the fossil record, is quoted there by Stephen Jay Gould, another scientist who doesn't believe in God, who doesn't believe in creation. But he says it's been a persistent and nagging problem, and they still haven't solved it. There is no evidence in the fossil record for intermediate or transitional states between one species and another species. Evolution doesn't agree with the fossil record. It's very clear that the fossil record doesn't support evolution, doesn't support a gradual change, doesn't support a change from one species to another species. And that's not me saying it, that's top scientists saying it. The evidence isn't there. In fact, the evidence contradicts evolution. But there's a question. What about the Bible? What about the account of creation? Does it do any better? Let's have a look. So what does Genesis 1 say? Well, it says two clear things about creation. It says that God made the plants and animals over a short period of time. We could spend a bit of time discussing or debating exactly what those periods of time mean, but the point is he made them over a short period of time. That's exactly what the Cambrian explosion shows, is that the plants and animals appeared in a very short period of time, geologically speaking. And the second thing that the Genesis 1 says is that God made them as distinct or different species of plants and animals. Once again, it's entirely supported by the fossil record, is that we don't have these in-between forms. They are distinct, complex organisms all appearing at the same time. Now then, what does that tell me about God? It tells me not only is he awesome and powerful, he can create the universe just by speaking, it also shows me that he is amazingly creative and imaginative. Look around you, look at the different variety and beauty in different animals and plants. It's quite amazing. Creation is amazing, and it shows us just how amazing God is. Is there anything more amazing than creation? Well, I think there's one thing that's more amazing. Let's have a look. When I look at creation, I come to the conclusion that it is amazing. But there is something which I find even more amazing. And again, it's included in the last verse of that chorus. And it says, I'll quote it there, "You see the depth of my heart, and you love me the same." What's more amazing than creation? Well, to me, that's more amazing than creation. God knows what I'm like. He knows how sinful and evil and selfish I am, but he still loves me. How do I know he loves me? Because he sent his son, whom he loves, to die on that cross for me. That is amazing. The title of that chorus is Indescribable. And I have to say, when it comes to describing salvation, words fail me. It's absolutely amazing. What about you? Does creation amaze you? I hope it does. But I hope more than that God's salvation, that you find that amazing. How can a holy, powerful God love somebody like me and somebody like you? That is amazing. Please think about these things.